Radio X Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with
Sean,
Chris,
and Lee.
Have we all recovered yet?
from the
I'm
roller
still
coaster.
upset.
Yeah, it was.
Still upset.
It was a difficult experience.
Well, what time did the race finish? Was it about 7?
Yeah, just after 7.
Coming up to 7, I think.
Yeah. Well, at about 8:30, my friend came around to watch a film with me. And when I opened the door, she was stood there. She said, "Are you okay?" I was like, "No, I'm not fucking okay." And I proceeded to go through the entire race to her before she even stepped through the door.
Yeah, we had our usual Sunday night racing session. Kicked off at 8 o'clock, and we were all just silent for the first half hour. Nobody could hardly speak to each other last night. It was just, we were all just sharing the grief.
it was a bit, well, grief. I mean, I was a bit like George Russell himself. I processed it quite quickly. I was quite happy to see the winner at the end. You know, I the race at all whatsoever, but I do think it was taken away from the guy who maybe should have won. And this time last week, we had no fucking idea any of this was going to happen.
This time last week, we were predicting an easy Hamilton win.
Yeah, I mean, this time last week, we kind of knew that Grosjean wouldn't be racing, and that was about it.
This time last week, we had Scarbs on the show, and he's never allowed on the show again. Because since Scarbs has been on the show, he said last week that he's been doing fine, everything's okay. Well, Scarbs put on Twitter today that he's in hospital, so get well soon, Scarbs.
Yeah,
so
definitely get well soon, Craig.
Lewis Hamilton got COVID and had to miss a race. He got replaced by George Russell, which meant Jack Aitken got called up. We missed all that news, swamped over the fact that Mazepin and Schumacher were announced by Haas for next season. Yeah. Scarbs is not allowed on the show ever again because big news happens straight after he's on the show.
I mean, we like a bit of big news, but...
And we also like
If life is ever boring, just speak to Scarbs.
We also like having Scarbs on the show, so no, I think we need to have him on the show again because it just leads to jump cuts. And everyone loves a jump cut. Sorry we didn't get the second one in last week or the extra show. I have since recovered.
Yeah, there's only so many you can do.
Yeah, life gets in the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want us to do this for a living and be,
Pay us more.
Yeah, put out daily podcasts. Then is that just go jump on Patreon and pay us?
Can you imagine trying to do a daily podcast in the middle of like the summer?
It'd be all right.
If we get enough money on Patreon, yes.
That's where we make the news.
We'll just get like a tombola and start drawing people out of a hat, like Russell to sober.
Mazepin comes out as Womble.
I'm convinced this is how football transfer rumours start. You know, I'm convinced there's just a raffle.
Well, now that Sky aren't showing Dream Team anymore, so that the sports pages can't actually get something completely wrong, because this is going back a few years, probably closer to Patreon material, but there used to be this.
This is nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah, but it still made me laugh when it happened. There was a football soap called Dream Team, and it was absolutely horrendous, and it was about this supposed English Premier League club, and in the soap opera, this club were about to sign a former French under-21 international. And I still remember the guy's name was Didier Baptiste.
That's it. Yeah, well remembered.
To which the, I think it was the Sun and the Daily Mirror both reported that Liverpool were also interested in him. In the show, Liverpool were also interested in him. But they decided that that wasn't actually a thing that was happening on a soap opera, and it was real life. And they spent about 3 weeks trying to track down this wonder kid French footballer that had completely disappeared off the radar because they couldn't find him anywhere. And in the end, Liverpool had to get together with Sky, who made the show, and say, this guy doesn't exist. It's just a plot in a TV show.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just for promotion for the TV show, because it was a TV show owned by the company that owned the Sun at the time, but not that owned the Mirror, and they were one of the big ones claiming that he was about to sign a real contract with a real club, and he was actually being played.
He never existed.
Never existed. He was being played by an actor from Watford or something. So yeah, we could do that during the summer. But tell you what, let's talk about things that actually happened. Race of the season so far?
I don't know about that, but I am a huge fan of the Squoval.
Very much so.
Yeah, that wasn't Bahrain at all, was it?
No, I thought it might be. There was danger of it being a boring race because it was going to be, the fastest cars will just disappear and then everybody else will get left behind. Not the case at all. It was quite an interesting experiment to put cars so fast on a circuit so short, and I think it worked.
I mean, I think a lot of that was to do with the MGUKs, because there's not as much braking, so they can't regenerate as much.
Possible, yes. Yeah, because what they said, there's 4 major braking points on that circuit.
Yeah, I think that was all. 11 corners, but you only brake for 4 of them.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz didn't like the way the power was being deployed. So it was, there were problems, MGUK problems as well, for some drivers. But I mean, it's a workaround. I don't know if they'll ever do that ever again. I don't think we'll ever see the like of yesterday's race happen again. Although I think we should. I think that needs to be considered for the Bahrain Grand Prix for next year.
I think throwing that in as a wild card once every couple of years at least.
Could alternate it.
Yeah, just don't bring the endurance circuit back.
If I was a country thinking about entering Formula One, and bringing a circuit to Formula One, maybe that's something that sticks in my mind. That circuit, and because you could. A circuit that size, you could make like a big amphitheater style circuit, couldn't you? That would be the big problem for Formula One of having a short circuit, is where do you put the grandstands to get 200,000 people in? It's where do you fit the people?
Yeah, but what's the capacity? How many fans do you normally get at Bahrain? It's about 30,000 max.
That's fair. I was just thinking of somewhere else, but if you were going to build something like that, you could do it. So there's more places or more like parts of the circuit that are like Mexico, for instance. Like when they get into like the theater, the stadium section,
the baseball stadium.
Yeah. The something like that would be really cool for Formula One. Make it like an oval, where you can see like a lot of the track.
Yeah, I mean,
it'd be really. Sorry, go on.
I'm going to say that kind of thing would work really well, and I think it would be a pretty good atmosphere as well. Because I mean, say what you want about oval racing, when the stands are full, it always seems to have a great atmosphere there.
Oh, I'd love to go to either a NASCAR race or an IndyCar race on an oval. I'd love to go and see it.
Yeah, I mean, apparently it is an actual experience. It's just like a party with a race going on in the middle of it as well.
Yeah. It's like people come and throw beers at me all the time. I'd be great. Yeah.
Of course, it's easy to catch the beers if you're a NASCAR fan with the extra fingers, but we haven't done that one. We haven't done that one for a while, have we? It's been a long time, and we've been nice to NASCAR. Oh God, I declared a truce back in April, didn't I? Shit, I've just broken it.
I was back in April. Don't worry about it. A lot's happened since then.
Oh, we're going to see a fucking restarting of the NASCAR troubles.
I wouldn't mind, but our racing league, it's a NASCAR race this weekend.
Paul. You're going to get pit manoeuvred out of the way.
Oh, completely. Oh, that's how you drive in NASCAR, isn't it? WWE on wheels.
Pretty much, actually, yeah. I'm surprised Brock Lesnar hasn't got a drive.
In the 90s, do you remember the NWO, WCW? They had a NASCAR.
And the mate of mine for my birthday about 98, 99, he bought me a Stone Cold Steve Austin NASCAR model.
Oh, nice.
with a little figure.
Another Steve Weiser. Steve Weiser sponsored NASCAR, I think, for either a race or a season. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I think I had a little scale model of the car and a life-size model of Steve Austin, which was a little bit smaller than the car. Apparently, Steve Austin's not the tallest of wrestlers. I don't know. Have we lost him?
No.
No,
Stunned
Steve Austin's probably about 6'3", 6'4".
Oh, right. According to my mate, that was he was Steve Austin short. I never really got into the relative heights of wrestlers.
Yeah, relative heights of wrestlers are odd because like the tall ones are nearly 7 foot. So when
Like
you
the
see,
Undertaker.
yeah, so when you see like a 6 footer next to a 7 foot guy, it looks like a 5 foot guy next to a 6 foot guy. So it skews it.
It's all averages. Anyway, we digress to some things that happened 20 years ago. That's twice. This is a good show for nostalgia. This is two 90s stories that we've done. Shall we move on to something that happened at the weekend then?
Yes, why not?
Yes.
We are only just 24 hours removed from
Snooker.
Trump loses again.
No, he won that tournament by a massive margin. Right then, start.
So just quickly, halfway through the race this weekend, someone did send me a tweet. It was "Stop the clock." Oh, sorry, stop the count. Sorry, idiot.
Right, we'll start with Williams. Jack Aitken on his debut, finished 16th. Sadly, brought out the safety car, which led to all. What was that?
Lee.
Me forgetting to turn the volume off my phone.
Amateurs.
Lee, get off Snapchat and concentrate on this.
There's boobies.
Where was I? Aiken, yeah, brought out the safety car that led to pit stops and all kinds of shenanigans, and also left a bit of debris on the track, which caused a puncture.
Yes, well,
We think.
maybe.
We think.
Yes, we think.
Latifi also took part in the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Jack Aitken, he doesn't. All the talk was all about what happened with George Russell, obviously, but Jack Aitken did all right. You know, he was okay.
He broke a front wing and did one more pit stop than Fittipaldi and finished ahead of him.
Yeah. Probably just overdrove the car slightly when he had that accident. But, you know, what do you want to do? It's his first. You know, it's his first ever race in Formula One.
He's done one Friday practice in the car this season. I think he did Styria, didn't
Possibly,
he?
yeah.
On Friday morning.
Yeah.
And
So-
chances are it's a massively different car to the one that he drove then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he finished the race, and his teammate, who's been in the car all year, didn't.
It was an oil pressure issue, I think they said, for Latifi, so maybe not on him.
Maybe not, but even still, Aitken finished the race.
You did?
And that's got to be your first aim, hasn't it? Really, in anything, is to finish the race.
It's unusual though that Williams actually had a big hand in the outcome of the race, because it was Latifi who brought out the virtual safety car when the car died that much that he couldn't even park parallel to the exit road and parked at 90 degrees to it. Where Carlos Sainz drove into the pits just as the safety car was ending, and that lost him a couple of places. So we could have seen him, we could have seen a McLaren podium.
Yeah, well, it was Perez. Perez got in under the VSC, and Sainz didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, that really did decide the podium ultimately.
But it's kind of the usual showing from Williams. But I've liked Jack Aitken for a while. When he's on it, he's good. He's got rid of a lot of the stupid mistakes that he used to make, like spinning on a formation lap.
Yeah.
Said he spun halfway through the race.
Well, yes. I had worried for Jack Aitken that he seemed to be sort of there or thereabouts at the same time that Lando and Russell and Alex Albon were doing well in F2, and then tailed away towards the end of that season. and it kind of looked like perhaps the moment had passed for him. I think he actually was all right this weekend, and maybe if he can get himself into a good F2 team next year, not Campos, there might be an opportunity that something somewhere might open up for him.
And I think there was a lot less pressure on him this weekend compared to Fittipaldi and certainly George Russell.
That's the thing. Everyone else was looking elsewhere. He just got in and cracked on.
Yeah, it's like George Russell's going to Mercedes. There's a Fittipaldi on the grid. Oh, and Jack Aitken's in as well.
Proof if ever you needed it.
I think even Fittipaldi got away with the pressure. To be perfectly honest, with somebody walking into Mercedes.
Yeah,
I think both those drivers were really lucky to make their debut this weekend.
Yeah, I mean,
proof if ever you needed it that being on this podcast is good for your career.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Are you
never truer words spoken?
Are you listening, Jack Aitken? We have reached out to you on many occasions. You've even liked some of the tweets that we've sent.
Only once has someone ended up in hospital within appearing on this show within a week, in the Craig Scarborough situation.
And that was, yes, exactly, yeah. Well, Sean's been on the show before, and there was an earthquake with him this week, and he still managed to do stats for the race. So,
yeah, he's also been on the show and ended up working in Walmart.
Yeah, exactly. Jack Aitken.
This maybe hasn't been the big sell we thought it was.
In fact, Sean was on the show and then left us to go to his interview at Walmart where they offered him the job.
Correct, yeah. That is true.
If you want a life-changing experience, come on 3 Legs 4 Wheels. That's all we're saying.
Absolutely, yeah. Jack Aitken, if you'd read my messages when you were, I think, still not even Formula 3, I'll see if I can find the original message that I sent to Jack Aitken many years ago now. I did read it out on the podcast, actually.
It's in one of the
had he responded to that, he would have been the guy who walked into Mercedes this weekend and not George Russell.
It's in one of the previous 274 shows. God, are we really on 275 this week? Christ. Right,
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
275.
275. We'll have to start thinking about the 300th show special at some point. Next year.
Yeah.
Right, Haas. K-Mag 15th, Fittipaldi 17th on his debut. K-Mag
was there.
He was there. He was phoning it in. Didn't crash.
No, just the thing. I don't remember anything exceptional from either of the Haases, but they just were there. Fittipaldi, interestingly, was third in the Driver of the Day vote.
I did tweet who is your third choice for Driver of the Day, because the top two were definitely.
I mean, he got the car round, and he wasn't that far off his teammate, which on debut is all right, I suppose. But
yeah,
don't know that he was the third most exciting of the day.
2016, I sent the message to Jack Aitken.
I thought you'd gone quiet. I didn't realise you'd gone
4 years worth of scrolling.
Quiet. And what did you send to him?
I don't send many messages. I just said we were looking to get some guests on the show, give our listener great insight from all perspectives. Would you like to share your experiences as you climb up the ladder towards F1 with us? We can arrange Skype interviews or something similar if you like, and it'd be great to check in with you every couple of months. And I can no longer send messages to this person. Not because I'm blocked, because I think he doesn't accept messages from people on Twitter anymore, because he's now a well-known person.
Well, the opportunity was there.
Yeah.
He didn't take it. Now look.
Lando, George, thank you for the interviews. That's all
Lewis,
you can.
Valtteri, Toto,
Johnny Herbert. Yeah, Robert Kubica as well.
Robert Kubica's done well. Second stint, maybe not so much, but he's a race winner.
He got a second stint.
Exactly, and that's all he ever needed.
So this is what coming on the show does for you. Right, Alfa Romeo. Giovinazzi 13th, Raikkonen 14th. In everything that happened on lap 1, Kimi's spin was completely overlooked.
Yes,
it was. Yeah. lots of stuff was happening at the sharp end. But there was it was kind of, was it turn 3 on the exit of turn 3 where the Grosjean incident happened like the weekend before?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's what made me sort of like, and I'm gonna use the term in the correct word here. It's what made me clench, because I went, no, not again. And then it was just Kimi Raikkonen doing a 360, and then everything else happened at turn 4, which kind of made you forget what happened at the exit of turn 3.
Mm.
And that is the only notable thing you can really say that happened to Alfa Romeo.
I think Kimi had quite a nice battle with Jack Aitken for a little while, which I imagine will have been quite fun for Aitken.
Yeah, I think as well that Giovinazzi was having a pretty good race most of the time, until I think he was one of the people who fell foul of that safety car near the end. Well, near the end, 3/4 of the way through, and he lost places that he wasn't able to recover. I think he was running in the points.
I've got to admit, I wasn't keeping too much of an eye on that end.
No, I can't say as I noticed him, but
we're going to start rewatching races and taking notes at some point, aren't we? If we had the time to do this, this is going back to the pay us.
Pay us to do it, and we will.
But yeah, a bit anonymous Sauber.
Yep.
Right, now it gets interesting. Ferrari next up, lower than their usual position of something like 5th best team. Vettel in 12th and Leclerc 4 corners.
Yeah, not great.
Look, people were talking up Leclerc, like especially the guys on Sky, like he was a genuine threat, for a race win in Bahrain. Did we not always say that it would be a difficult race for Ferrari? I mean, don't get me wrong, that qualifying lap was something out of like the Ayrton Senna textbook of godlike laps. There was no way that Ferrari should have been anywhere near the front of that field. And he literally just went, well, I'm not getting in the car again because what's the fucking point? That's literally the best it's going to do.
It was the way that he stood right next to the Mercedes garage as they were coming out for their final runs as well.
It was a real like, come on then, lads.
It might have been a coincidence because he was on his way to the weighbridge at the time. But he got there just in time to see them both drive out right under his nose.
Yeah, I think officially he was on his way to the weighbridge because he didn't have a new set of softs to go for a second flying lap. But I prefer the other version where he's just like, nah.
Go on, down to you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we knew there would be drivers in front of him, but I mean, that lap by Leclerc in qualifying was...
What noise are we hearing here?
Is one of you doing the washing up?
No, that's the rain hitting my window.
Shit,
whoa!
Really?
Is that rain?
Yep.
Hang on.
I've just looked out the window and it's coming down sideways out there.
It sounds like some kind of like rotisserie something or other.
Oh, hold on a second. I don't think it's raining where I am.
I don't think it's raining here.
Oh, it is.
Is it?
Oh yeah, you can see it in the street lights.
Yeah, no, it is totally chucking it down.
It is a bit.
And there's your current weather update from Three Legs, Four Wheels, from where we record the podcast. It's back to you in the studio.
3 legs, 4 seasons.
In one day. Right, so, yes, Leclerc. Fantastic qualifying, and then a massive small tree moment that he got completely wrong.
I don't know. Yes, he did get it a bit wrong, because he locked up.
He admitted it himself.
Yeah, but at the same time, I also think Sergio Perez should probably have given that space, and then maybe Perez wouldn't have spun around, and the race win might have been a bit easier for him. But spinning around at the first corner put Leclerc out of the race. Inadvertently put Verstappen out of the race. Verstappen was just trying to avoid an accident. Leclerc made a mistake, but I feel like Perez caused the accident, caused the collision.
Yeah, I think watching it as it happened, I think my first instinct was Perez was not faultless in said incident, but Leclerc seemed very happy to assume responsibility as soon as he was out of the car. So
I mean, the thing was,
Yeah.
he made a dive for the inside line on the corner, and ran out of talent because he hit the brakes way too late. That's why he locked up. And it wasn't.
It's not even just the hitting the brakes too late. The angle he was at, he was never going to get round that corner without going into one of the other cars.
I think he was expecting somebody to move out of his way that was already ahead of him.
No, but when you're already three abreast, because there was three of them there, the track's not big enough then for anyone to get out of the way. I think you're right. I think he just outbraked himself, and he wasn't on a line to do anything.
And there's more problems with it being offline there, because not only do you not have the rubber that's been laid down, but you've got a fresh coating of sand on top of it as well, which is slippy as fuck.
I suppose it doesn't help, because I think Leclerc's probably a good enough driver to be 10th or 11th. So when he's up there with the big boys, he just didn't quite fit.
Oh God, no! And you can tweet your replies to that at a total shunt.
I mean, to be fair, this season, that's probably about correct.
Only when he's outperforming the car.
Tyre temps in it. Tyre temps, he just accidentally gets his tyres in the right temperature. That's why he can't do it consistently, because he doesn't even know he's done it. It's just now and again he's got tyres that are hot enough.
Send DMs on Twitter to at a total shunt. Can we talk about how drab Vettel was? You notice he has a bad one because Binotto was there.
Yeah.
Vettel's kind of he's not really at Ferrari, is he? Mentally, he's done.
No, I tell you what, I have come to terms with though, and I don't get me wrong. I keep hanging on to this in my head that I think Vettel's done enough in his career to warrant another team giving him the opportunity to prove that it's Ferrari that's fucked Vettel and not Vettel.
This is a thing I had yesterday as well.
I've come to terms with the fact that Racing Point had made a mistake.
Yeah, somebody said, the second I think it was Sean actually. He said, the second happiest man is going to be behind Sergio Perez is going to be Sebastian Vettel. And I thought, no, it's not. Because now that's a benchmark now set for Vettel. Well, they've won a race this season. Go on then, Mr. Four-time world champion. If Sergio Perez can win a race, why aren't you winning races?
Bring your winning ways.
That's exactly it. So he can't be Ferrari Vettel. He has to be Red Bull Vettel at Racing Point next year.
Or at least
Martin.
Well, I'm happy Vettel.
Yeah. At least, Vettel who doesn't win but still stirs the pot a little bit. That year where he was trolling Rosberg was fucking hilarious. every press conference, he'd just take the piss out of Nico Rosberg.
I think it'll be interesting because he's got to be better than Ferrari Vettel. Because let's be honest here, Stroll's not had a bad year. He's had a couple of bad races where he hasn't been where the car should have been. But for most of this year, he's kept Perez honest or been ahead of him.
And not always artificially.
No. Well, I don't think he's ever been artificially ahead of Perez. But the thing is, what does that do to Vettel if Vettel goes to Aston Martin and Stroll puts him away?
Then Perez gets his seat back for 2022.
Maybe. Well, I can't see that. I can't see Vettel doing 1 year. I'm sure he signed a multi-year deal, and I don't. He'll be there in 22.
Depends if he retires or not.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe he could retire.
That is one way to get out of a contract.
I still believe
Rosberg still had 2 years left on his Mercedes contract when he retired.
Yeah, but I still believe that. First of all, I think Rosberg retired too early. But I still believe that Formula One has got away from Vettel, and I've said this on the podcast a few times. You have to look at the generations of Formula One and the people that do well in them. And all of a sudden you realise by looking at the driving styles of those individual people, that their driving style just happened to suit Formula One at that time. Like Vettel's losing the back end all the time because he seems to be a very much get it into the corner, square it off, and try and get the power on as quickly as possible. That worked really well with double diffusers because they had all that rear downforce, so he had all that grip, and he wasn't losing the back end at that point. And I don't think he's been able to adjust. I know that this sounds counterintuitive, but I think in 2022, when they bring the downforce levels back down in all the cars, even though the cars will have less downforce, I think you'll find they're going to be more balanced. So I think Formula One could come back to someone like Sebastian Vettel in 22.
Yeah, it's a perfectly reasonable assumption to make.
I mean, there is every possibility of that. It's whether he actually manages to hang on till 2022 and not just say, right, that's it, I'm done, I've had enough.
Yeah, that also could be right, or that maybe there's a performance clause in his contract and he actually gets nerfed out before it can come back to him.
I would be surprised if there wasn't a performance clause. What exactly it would be, I don't know, but I would imagine pretty much everyone will have something that gives a team an out.
Yeah, I mean, given the fact that Vettel hasn't performed brilliantly over the last couple of years, and Aston Martin was the only option he had for a semi-competitive car, it's not like he could play big games with saying, oh, well, I could sign for Williams.
Well, he probably could sign for Williams, but then again, he'd be finishing outside the points every week and occasionally being backwards.
Regardless, though, it was a pointless weekend for Ferrari. It looked so promising on Saturday after Leclerc's super lap, but yeah, it was not to be during the race.
Right, AlphaTauri next. Kvyat in 7th, Gasly in 10th. Kvyat is going to be another one that we reckon won't have a seat next year. And he's been putting in some solid performances, and I think he's done enough to be worth someone putting him in a car. But
it's too late, though, isn't it?
But there's no one that will, and no one that can.
No, it happens in Formula One quite a lot. You get drivers who will, put together some performances when the pressure is off. But the pressure is off on Kvyat because he knows he hasn't got a drive for next year, not because he has got a drive. And all of a sudden he starts performing. Well, it's just a case of too little, too late, if you ask me. He's been turfed out of Formula One before for a year, and we didn't really miss him. Let's be honest.
I don't know. We had to put up with Brendan Hartley for a year while he was out.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, but look at the experience Brendan Hartley got during that year.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's the way Formula One works, and it's time for somebody else to. Kvyat's still relatively young, but
26?
That team especially.
27, I think, 27, 28-ish. He's a little bit getting up there.
I don't think he's even that old. I think Kvyat's about 25.
We will look this up. Anyone else with your bets? Anyone else with your bets for the Danny Kvyat age?
I'm going to say he's 25. I found him on Google. He is 26.
Ah.
I reckon there should be an IndyCar team taking a punt on him. Because I think he might do. I think he might do well. I wouldn't trust him on an oval, but
torpedo.
In fact, the ideal team for him would be Ed Carpenter Racing. Then he drives the car on the street circuits that Ed Carpenter does on the ovals.
Yeah, but look how well he did on the Sochi street circuit that time. He torpedoed Vettel, which is very similar in style to every IndyCar street circuit.
Okay, yeah, you might have a point. Get him to do the ones at proper racetracks then, and then get another street circuit expert in. So just somebody give him a job in IndyCar because he's an entertaining driver. Gasly, gone up in my estimation this week.
Oh, do tell.
He plays World of Warcraft.
Oh,
really?
Up in your estimation.
There is nothing wrong with World of Warcraft. For the Alliance.
Plenty wrong with World of Warcraft.
I think this pod is split 50-50 on the merits of World of Warcraft.
No, because I think you'll find a vote against Warcraft is like an away goal in football, and it counts as 2 votes.
You're both wrong, but anyway. Aside from World of Warcraft advert, I didn't really see much of Gasly this weekend.
He went backwards late on for the same reason that Bottas did. He didn't come in for new tyres under either the VSC or the safety car, I think, so he was just falling away. They took a punt on
he
track
was
position.
in the points, wasn't he, until that late Russell charge?
I think Russell and Norris both got past him in the last couple of laps.
I do remember Russell and Lando mugging him, yes. Again, I think probably down to qualifying being so strange.
Possibly.
Here, because the tyres are good for, the soft tyres were good for a lap, maybe 2 laps. But there was time to do considerably more. And teams were just eating through the tyres. And it's not a great circuit for soft tyres anyway, just because of the track surface. From Shropshire, as has been mentioned constantly on various coverage for the last 2 weeks. Mainly because that's where Virtual Startman's from. So it's hard on the soft tyres.
Shrewsbury tarmac.
And obviously you can either go for speed or durability, and I think that's been amplified with the abrasiveness of the circuit itself, and it was a gamble that, from the looks of things, teams did lose out on.
That's always the way, though, isn't it? With any sort of safety car situation, there are always going to be winners and losers.
Yeah, true, but I think certain teams running low on tyres had put themselves on the back foot from the off, especially Ferrari, because with Leclerc losing out on a second Q3 run because not having another set of softs to go out and do it, then maybe wanting to retain what he'd got left in that set for the race.
Yeah, possibly.
All right, he didn't get to use them, but no, it was tyre management as early as Saturday afternoon, which is an unusual situation. Let's face it.
Yeah, very much so.
This wasn't a lap of Belgium.
No, it wasn't even. It was the same. Wasn't the whole lap roughly the same as the longest sector in Belgium? Middle sector.
Jesus.
Oh, what? I missed that one. I know it's not the shortest circuit on the calendar, because that still is Monaco.
Mm-hmm. But Monaco is slower, so a lap takes longer.
About 3 years. Yeah, each lap of Monaco is a pandemic.
What is Monaco? It's about 110 quali lap.
About that, yeah.
Roughly, yeah.
I mean, that's still impressive speeds that you're getting.
Oh yeah.
We just think it's slow relatively. Right, that was AlphaTauri. Okay, next Mercedes.
Oh.
Yeah, they're in the middle of the pack for a reason this week.
A reason or some reasons?
No, a reason, purely based on their... The reason that they're in the middle of the pack is based on their finishing position.
Well, yes.
But their finishing position is because of reasons.
Right, we'll start with Bottas.
Yeah.
8th place. All right, lost out on a set of tyres when they got the pit stop completely wrong.
Yeah, presumably his brakes weren't in great nick towards the end either, because they'd been on fire for about 20 seconds.
His brakes were announcing that there was a new pope.
Yes.
I mean, looking at it, that whole pit stop shenanigan, that was just a complete mess. Twitter was asking, are they in fancy dress this weekend? Apparently, Netflix were with George Russell.
Yes, Mercedes have said they were not specifically with Mercedes this weekend. So.
Just to point out that it wasn't the Netflix curse on the whole team. It was just a side effect.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? The pit call was late. George Russell was just at the last second able to get into the pits. And then Bottas's radio came over, team comms as well. And
But still, if you're double stacking your cars, you know which order they're coming in.
yeah.
No, this is a problem. The team didn't go that there was mixed message, and the team thought that Bottas was boxing, but George wasn't. So,
I think there was a problem with software, wasn't there?
Yeah, they put Bottas's tyres on George's car, and then when Bottas pulled in, went, "Oh, for fuck's sake, we can't put these tyres on. These are the wrong ones." So that's why they put Bottas's tyre back on, and then he went. He didn't actually change tyres. They went back out, and they had to pull George back in again to put different tyres on, and then obviously, then there was the post safety car. How do I put it? Charge from George Russell.
Yeah.
Twice passing Bottas on track. Obviously at the start and in that safety car restart, which is decent stuff.
From the bad side of the grid as well at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The big talk leading up to Lights Out was his starts haven't been brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from that we can take that the Mercedes starts a lot better than the Williams does. Also finishes a lot better than the Williams does.
Yeah.
And whatever the starting system is on that car, it more suits his style. Because, I mean, you can't say, the Mercedes, it's, great, it's great at everything. It starts fantastic. Well, it isn't, because how many mares with it has Bottas had this season?
Yeah.
And Lewis has had a few scruffy starts as well. He just nailed the start. I don't think there's like a big story behind it. I just think he had a good start.
Yeah, if we're gonna talk George Russell, we should probably start at the beginning, shall we? Like, as in, like, getting called up to the team.
We may as well do Mercedes as a whole.
Yeah.
We'll start from a toilet in a Bahrain hotel at 2 a.m. Tuesday morning local time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Toto's phone call, which said, "I'm going to try and get you released from Williams for this race because you are our first choice. But however, if I can't get you released, I will put Stoffel in the car." That's apparently how the phone call went.
And Stoffel is the reserve driver. He was going to be in Bahrain this weekend after the Formula E test in
Valencia.
Thank you. I couldn't remember. I knew it was Spain, but I couldn't remember if it was Valencia or Jerez.
Yeah.
Stoffel did turn up there, and he was looking like a little lost puppy, according to Sean.
He was just looking a bit of a spare part, really, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can totally see why they wanted George Russell in the car. I mean, he's shown his mettle at Williams. The question had always been, is he ready to make the step up to a big team, or is it still too soon because he's only ever pissed about at the back in a Williams and never scored points.
Well, Lewis Hamilton was ready for starting in a big team in his first season with McLaren.
Yeah, he was, but I mean, he was when he was announced, it was like, oh, a new British driver in at McLaren. Okay, fine, whatever. But when you start at a lower team, the question's always there. You don't know whether someone's going to be ready until they make the move and prove it themselves. This weekend, he did FP1 and FP2 and finished top in both. Did Verstappen finish top in FP3?
He did, yes.
And then Russell misses out on pole in his first qualifying session in the Mercedes by 0.02 of a second.
Yep. 20
finally
milliseconds.
Finally gets out qualified.
It was 26 thousandths.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finally gets out qualified by. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? Really, you can split a second into 1,000 segments, and there's only 26 of those that George Russell missed out on pole.
Yeah.
So yeah, he finally gets out qualified by a teammate. which is to be expected. You know, he's only standing in for a 7-time world champion.
No pressure.
No, exactly, no pressure. But then he makes that start, and in all honesty,
pisses off down the road.
Yeah, if you didn't know George Russell was in that car, you'd be like, "Oh, Hamilton's leading again by 3 or 4 seconds." It was. He's proven he's ready, and that final stint after the I say the final stint, you know, before the puncture, when he was just overtaking Bottas for starters, which we've already mentioned, which was just an insane overtake into round the outside and into that chicane, past Esteban Ocon, like he wasn't even there. I was just like, how? Like, you know, there's two young Mercedes drivers, as they were in the program. One proving by far that they're more worthy of the seat than the other one. Okay, fine, he's in the Mercedes, but come on, like, this weekend was a total tipping point for me in that George Russell's totally ready for a top seat. Valtteri Bottas probably shouldn't be in that Mercedes.
And the other thing is, see if he hadn't had that slow puncher and they had to pit him again, I think he'd have won the Grand Prix. I think he'd have closed Perez down.
He was catching Perez between 3 and 5/10 a lap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and once he got past Ocon, I think Perez had a 3.5 second lead on him.
It was under 2 seconds. It was like 2.5.
He got it down really quick,
didn't
he?
But as soon as he got past Ocon, he was 3.5 seconds behind with 13 laps to go, and he was on course to catch him and be within DRS range with about 3 or 4 laps left, and there was going to be enough time to size up and make a pass.
Mm-hmm.
And even if he hadn't made it stick, and, you know, we all would have been happy with the Perez winning a Russell second, but it wasn't to be because of the puncture, which ironically we think was caused by the car that he would have been in had Hamilton been
just
able
like
to
the
race.
safety car was.
Well, no. Well, the safety car was caused by the car, but they didn't clear up the debris from the front wings actually smashing.
Yeah,
that's
no,
what we think caused the puncture.
It's his car that caused both his troubles.
Yeah, because they came in under the safety car that was caused by Aitken, which is what started the whole excitement.
Yeah, George Russell's car caused 3 pit stops for George Russell, and he wasn't even driving it.
Yeah.
If he hasn't started calling that car Christine now, there is something wrong with the kid.
Karen, I think, might be the name.
However, I think there's some. I don't want to jinx anything just yet, but there does appear to be some good news for George Russell in that it looks like he might get a second bite of the apple next weekend.
Yeah.
Because of the rules and regulations surrounding people with COVID entering the Emirates, and specifically Abu Dhabi, Lewis Hamilton probably won't be well enough in time and provide negative tests early enough to enter Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, because
if he's not in Abu Dhabi, he can't race.
Because we were talking about this before, before we started recording. So Lewis's positive test was Monday.
Yes.
So
that, as far as I can tell, that means that is day 1.
Yeah. Bahrain has 10 days of isolation.
Yes, which would make Wednesday day 10.
He's then got to have a negative test Wednesday of this week before he's allowed to leave Bahrain. He then has to have another negative test when he lands in Abu Dhabi, according to the regulations, because they have tightened up, and in the words of Autosport, F1 has entered an unprecedented biosphere. I'm using their words, not mine. Under normal circumstances, Abu Dhabi has a 14-day quarantine for anyone coming in,
right?
Which has been waived for F1.
Yes,
because F1 have taken over the track and 6 local hotels in their entirety. They're also making all of F1 practically arrive together at the same time on a load of charter flights. F1 has for the most part, travelled to Abu Dhabi today.
Yes, because I think is there
Monday.
some kind of 48-hour quarantine they've got to do within the F1 bubble?
Yes, there is a 48-hour quarantine for anyone arriving in Abu Dhabi from Europe, and I think they're counting F1 as a whole as being a separate
a European entity.
as a Europe.
So if Hamilton travels after F1 to join F1, he has this 48-hour.
He would have to go. He would have to then go via Europe and do the 48-hour quarantine.
This is like some sort of horrible maths question at school.
It is.
It's like,
how do you
if
stop
A.
the fox
Hamilton
eating the
has to
chicken?
quarantine, if A. Hamilton has to quarantine and have a test between going from two different countries, how many Russells get to drive by the end of the weekend?
I mean, realistically, if he tests negative on Wednesday and travels on Wednesday and quarantines for 48 hours, he still can't practice.
Yeah. So for me, it's George Russell in the car again at Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And that's again, reliant on, and don't forget as well, when Sergio Perez was positive earlier on in the season, he was asymptomatic. He felt fine, but he kept turning up positive tests.
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton is allegedly quite unwell. He's just he's not asymptomatic. He's a little bit groggy. He's staying in bed, feel very well. So he doesn't have to just like turn up a negative test. He has to feel better to be.
That's the thing. I mean, Stroll didn't have COVID, but missed a race.
But he did have COVID.
But then it turned out he did have COVID. Because the official explanation for Stroll was he had a stomach bug.
Yes.
And then it turned out to be the stomach bug that you get with COVID.
COVID isn't a stomach bug.
No, apparently this is a symptom that they're starting to see in younger people who are sort of COVID asymptomatic but have like a stomach flu.
It's
okay.
stomach flu and conjunctivitis.
All right, okay. I wasn't aware of that, but yeah, okay. I'm still unsure about the whole. Does that count as like asymptomatic though? Because I mean, Stroll wasn't well, but I mean, there was no race that weekend, so he was okay anyway, wasn't he, to come back and race the following race?
Yeah, but in the meantime, he'd already missed a race, and he'd missed a race because of stomach flu that was COVID, but wasn't COVID at the time. It's all really confusing. Anyway, the practical upshot of all this is, it's not 100% certain that we're going to see Lewis Hamilton racing in Abu Dhabi this weekend.
Yes.
Which would give George another chance in the car.
Also, if there's a vested interest right now in Mercedes having George in that car to see what happens. That's something else to think about.
How he bounces back.
Yeah.
Well, it's also easy to forget, especially when you talk about drivers like Lewis Hamilton, which are sort of the top of the tree of Formula One. It's easy to forget that they're still employees of their team, and to that respect, have to kind of do what they're told to do.
Yeah. Unless they've got a dad who buys the... Yeah, anyway. But, I mean, yeah, if he's in the car this weekend, we will get to see what his... I'm going to go all soccer AM here. Bounce back ability is like. It's in the dictionary now. It's a real word.
I think that was first...
Lee was
telling... I think that was first coined in the 90s, you know.
I think it was... Is it Ian Dowie that's credited with coining it?
Is it Ian Dowie?
I think it might be
Alex Ferguson.
No, it was Soccer AM.
I think it was Ian Dowie during his time as Crystal Palace manager.
Yeah, because Soccer AM dared him to.
Ah.
So it might be another 90s thing. I'm 20 years in the past here.
Absolutely.
It was my prime. I'm trying to shoehorn in as many 90s references as I can. I'm gonna go drink some.
Schumacher's back in Formula One.
I'm gonna go drink some Crystal Pepsi. No, I'm not.
I thought you were gonna say meth then.
No, I'm not. It was disgusting. I'd rather have meth.
Was Crystal Pepsi just tab clear?
Yeah, but made by Pepsi.
Right, because Tab Clear was fucking legit, like.
Yeah, Crystal Pepsi wasn't. There was one major issue that I had with it. It tasted of Pepsi.
See, I'll fight you for this one. Pepsi's better than Coke. Full fat Pepsi is better than full fat Coke, but Coke Zero is better than all of them.
I wouldn't know. I get migraines when I drink Coke Zero, so I just drink full fat Coke, and I don't like the taste of Pepsi.
So McLaren then.
Well, I was going to say, where does this leave Bottas? Chris, you've got thoughts.
Bottas.
I think we've all
I haven't
got
got
thoughts.
I just don't think he should be in that car. I've always been of the opinion that Valtteri Bottas is doing the best he can in the same car as Lewis Hamilton, but Hamilton's just that much further down the road in terms of talent and experience and just general comfortability in that team and in the car. He plays the psychological games better than anyone else. So that's why he always had the upper hand over Valtteri Bottas, much more so than he did over Nico Rosberg. But it turns out that this year we've learned that Bottas doesn't push Hamilton anywhere near as much as Nico Rosberg pushed Hamilton. And somebody comes into the team for the first time and, all right, doesn't beat by terms of final standings in the race, but did have one extra pit stop and only finished a couple of seconds behind.
Two extra pit
stops.
One extra pit stop.
The double stacked one was both of them making their second stop. Russell then had to come back in on the following lap and got the puncture.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, two extra stops. Yeah, so two extra stops and only finished a couple of seconds behind. Yeah, so that strengthens the case even further. Yes, okay, Bottas tyres. Yeah, okay, Bottas's brakes might have been on fire a little bit. There was a bit of a mistake. It might have been the team's mistake. But Russell passing Bottas, you could not imagine Bottas doing that to anyone. That was a Lewis Hamilton style move, and that charge at the end of the race before the puncture was so much grit and so much more grit and determination than we've seen from Valtteri Bottas at any point during his Formula One career. It's time to move Valtteri on and put George or...
And we appear to be losing Chris again.
Bottas has hacked him.
All I was saying was that just...
No,
as soon as you tried, you said we got the...
While Flood's bandwidth sorts itself out, I might as well upset the rest of the Formula One fans. I don't think Lewis Hamilton could have done what George Russell did when he came back after his second pit stop. Because how many times have we seen Lewis following people complaining about spoiled air coming off the cars, how the cars can't follow? This is where the whole thoughts came from. Oh, well, the Mercedes can't follow. Well, on Sunday afternoon, George Russell didn't fucking care about that because he was just driving round, lads.
I definitely think we'd have heard a lot more on the radio if it was Hamilton that had that whole debacle.
I mean, there was...
I referenced Monza with that because at Monza, Hamilton came out of that penalty 23 seconds behind the rest of the field and finished, I think, 6 seconds behind Bottas. I think he made up nearly a minute in half of Monza and passed most of the field.
I mean,
ran out of laps.
We didn't hear it.
I suppose the thing there which goes in common with Monza is you've got that nice big long straight, haven't you? But I think more so than the not Bahrain circuit, Mercedes have got such a massive advantage in Monza because of that engine, more so than what we've got here.
I don't know. I mean, there is a
but Bottas
there is a big long
sixth place at Monza.
There is a big long straight in that Bahrain circuit. It's that Bahrain circuit.
I don't know. There is Monza where Lewis came back, but there's more occasions where there's been just like but not just Lewis, from Bottas as well, where they just haven't been able to get past people. But like I say, especially at the end of the race as well. I don't think either of them would have got their head down like Russell did.
I mean, I'll bet Pirelli were happy because there was nobody coming on the radio every 10 minutes complaining about their tyres.
Maybe. I suppose it meant their product wasn't being mentioned every 10 minutes. So.
I mean, can we take from this that Russell's kinder on his tyres than Hamilton is?
I don't think we can take anything from it. What my big take from it is that I think George Russell, just off the back of this one race and what we've seen him do in GP2 and how he's handled being stuck at the back of the grid in Williams for 2 years, if you stuck him in Bottas's seat next year, I think he would give Lewis trouble the same way as Lewis gave Fernando trouble in Mercedes.
And there is the big question. Would Mercedes want that again?
I don't think Mercedes care who wins, and they have to start looking to the future because Hamilton's probably only going to be on the grid tops 2-3 years. They could have the next big thing on their hands in Formula One, and they can't let that slip through their fingers to keep one driver happy for 2 years. That might end up going to Ferrari.
That's the problem, isn't it? It's not just Mercedes that have now seen he can race at the front of the field. Everyone else has seen it, and if Mercedes aren't giving him a car at the front of the field, other people will come knocking. Every contract can be bought out.
I think his contract is only to the end of next year anyway, isn't it? You know, it could come the end of next year, if going into 2022, he could be in a Red Bull if Mercedes don't do something about it.
I wouldn't be surprised if that contract for George Russell's 2022 race seat at Mercedes has already been printed and has been presented to George.
But do you risk leaving him out of that seat for another year? Do you risk giving him the taste of success and fucking demoralising him for another year?
Well, I just don't know how they would get out of it, but I mean, I totally agree. I would want to see Russell, after just this one race performance, see Russell in that car all of next season. But
I reckon they could get him out of the Williams contract in the same way as Bottas had it in his Williams contract, that if Mercedes come knocking, that he's a Mercedes driver.
I don't think Williams would be too bothered either, since there's a Perez floating round.
Yeah, which is probably going to bring more money into the team. And Mercedes owing you a favour is probably a good thing. Because
it's just what they do with Bottas, isn't it? Because Bottas is already being confirmed for 21.
Yeah, I mean, you can have a contract at work. They'll pay him. They'll do exactly what Ferrari did with Kimi Räikkönen. They'll pay him for his services, but they just won't have him in the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in essence, if they still pay the money he's owed from that contract just because he's not in the car, it doesn't mean they're breaching said contract.
It's only when it gets to Guido van der Garde levels of, yes, you've definitely got a contract, stump up your sponsorship cash up front, you've definitely got the drive, you've definitely got a space in the team. Oh, you haven't got space in the team, but we've cashed your check. That's when it gets
a different situation.
That's when it gets shady.
If you're a pay driver, that's different because you're paying them. If they don't give you the product you're paying for, then they are fully under breach of contract, aren't they?
Yeah.
But if they're saying like we're going to pay you for your services, then we say, well, we kind of don't want you to do the thing we're going to pay you for, but we're still going to pay you your contract. That's it.
I mean, there's going to be some clever legal wording in there that is, I will say, beyond anyone on this show and 99.99% of anyone listening to this show, where the teams will have a watertight get-out clause. It might even be something as simple as, this is a contract for your services as a Formula One driver. Now, that doesn't say racing driver or test driver or development driver, just a part of the Formula One team that is employed as a driver. It could be, if they're really coming down hard on him, you're the guy that brings James Vowles to the circuit. You're still working for a Formula One team. You're driving a car. That's what it says in your contract.
I don't know about that sort of stuff. All I know.
We didn't tell you which car you'll be driving. You're still in a Mercedes.
All I know is that Sergio Perez had a contract with Aston Martin for next year.
Yep.
And now he doesn't appear to have a car, and Vettel has one. Yeah, that's all you need to know about Formula One contracts.
Sometimes not worth the paper they're written on.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes worth several million copies of the paper that they're written on. McLaren then.
Just quickly before we go, just run it round. I think. What do you think? I think George Russell will be in the car next year.
I'd like to see him in the car, but I just don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, same. I think they'll stick with Bottas because he's a safe bet and they can guarantee winning both titles.
The only way I can see George Russell in the Mercedes full time is if Lewis Hamilton goes, yeah, I'm retiring, boys. See you later.
You're not right. I've got a perfect analogy for this time of year.
Go on.
He is the sprouts that you've got to eat with your Christmas dinner before you can have pudding. One more year of sprouts, and then it's pudding all the way.
No, I don't think they risk doing it. I don't think they risk destroying a driver, and that's exactly what could happen.
I don't know. If they offer him the deal now for 2022, that's not going to be destroying him. It's...
No, because you don't know that.
You've got the goal. You've got something that, you know, I'll get through this crap year because I know things are going to be better.
I don't know if it works like that. I don't know if sport works like that. I think you need... How many drivers have we seen come into Formula One and spend too long at the back of a grid?
Yeah, well, Perez would be a starting point.
You know, it doesn't work. You know, I mean, I'm sure it could do, and it could be fine, but I don't think you risk it. I'm still not. I know this is the more doubtful side of it, but I'm still not 100% out of the idea that he might replace Lewis Hamilton. Lewis hasn't signed a contract. Lewis wants reportedly 55 million a year, which is, in case anyone hasn't noticed, fucking loads of money.
Well, not if you're a Latifi, a Stroll, or a Marzipan.
It's pocket money.
I think people have forgotten teams like Williams. People have forgotten that teams like Williams got rid of people like Damon Hill and Nigel Mansell. You know, it's not unprecedented for a team to take someone which is a winning machine and turn around and go, do you know what? We can make another world champion. We don't need to make you world champion. And all the talk, you know, people are saying, constantly saying like, oh, it's clearly just the car now, and it's not the driver. Maybe Lewis isn't as good as we thought he is. I'm not saying that. I still think Lewis is a fantastic driver, but I do think if you stick George Russell and Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes next year, one of them will be world champion. So Mercedes don't need Lewis Hamilton to win a world championship.
And going on your current opinions, Kimi will still be the last Finnish name to appear on the World Champions Trophy.
Oh yeah, probably. I think George Russell would put it, if he can nail Bottas on over the course of his first weekend in a team. Imagine what he'd do with the car that he helped develop and a proper. You know, it's some proper prep with the team on the way into the season.
Well, I mean that won't be happening until 2022 because we're still going to be using effectively this year's cars next year. Oh
yeah, no, but he can still do all the sim work. He'll know what the buttons do.
He said that he's not driven the Mercedes sim for 2 years.
No, but if he was to be signed for next year, he'd be in the sim. That's what I'm saying. Leading into next year. If they were to sign him, come to Australia, he would be on board with that car because all the buttons would be set on the steering wheel how he wanted them. He'd know what the systems are.
Yeah, because he did have to ask how to turn the engine off at the end of Q3.
I think there were a few bits and pieces he needed a little bit of help with, which is understandable.
I mean, I don't know whether it was joking or not, but he did tell the team to remind him which pit to come into.
Well, very different.
Wasn't joking.
Yeah, very different section of the pit lane to usual.
Yeah, he nearly gave himself an impromptu drive-through.
Yeah, it certainly as well wouldn't.
Both.
If they are going to go for him in 2022, they will need obviously to change the cockpit a bit so he can have his proper shoe size.
They need a size 11 footwell.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't put it past, especially if there's talk of Lewis Hamilton retiring in 2022. If Lewis's idea is to get those 8 world championships and check out, do you risk it? Do you risk losing George Russell to keep one driver happy so they can get their record? Because at the end of the day, that's all that we remember. Like seven-time world champion Michael Schumacher is what we say. We don't say 7-time world drivers and Ferrari drivers Michael Schumacher. It's the numbers. The numbers are great for teams, but if Lewis Hamilton gets the most championships of any driver, it will be looked at as his achievement and not Mercedes' achievement. In when we look at it as a piece of history. Do you get me?
Yeah, I mean,
Mercedes
have got the record for the most championships with one driver.
Yeah. And that's why I tweeted yesterday that it's an unpopular opinion, but I don't think Mercedes care how many world championships Lewis has, as long as it's a driver that's driving a Mercedes that's winning the world championships.
It could well be. These next few months are going to be great for speculation. Shall we do McLaren now?
This next week's going to be great on my Twitter. I've just upset every Leclerc fan and every Hamilton fan, the most rabid of the Formula One fans.
Oh, don't worry, you've not got to Verstappen yet. You've still got them to clear up on. But we'll fucking do McLaren first. Carlos could have had a podium if it hadn't have been for unfortunate virtual safety car timing. I think he got onto the pit lane just as it came up safety car ending.
Yeah, he was just on the wrong bit of the track when it happened, which is unfortunate, but not much you can do about
totally got
that.
undercut by Perez.
Yeah. And Ocon, I think, as well. I think that's how Ocon got through.
Yeah, I think it was Ocon too, yeah.
Speaking of undercut, George would be cheaper. Did I mention that?
I think you did.
You might have mentioned that once or twice.
I'm sorry, carry on.
We can't mute him tonight. He's on the same channel as Chris.
It's all right, I'll take the hit.
Oh, you're just going to live in purgatory with me.
Oh dear God! Great drive from Sainz. Every good performance from him this week makes me a little bit more gutted that he's going to be in a Ferrari next year. But every great performance from him makes me feel better for Ricciardo because he's going to be in a McLaren next year.
Yeah, that's going to be fun, isn't it?
Lando started 19th, finished 10th.
Yeah, probably underrated. Didn't get as much of the attention as he should have for that drive.
Do you know what? That was a Sainz-esque performance. Yeah. Just got his head down and got on with it.
Well, he was in 10th after the first lap, wasn't he? I don't know what happened other than obviously the Raikkonen spin and the other 3, which is 4 places for him. But I mean, he took the other 5 places somewhere else on lap 1 and was already in the at the end of the first lap, and I was kind of expecting a Norris charge, to get up close to the top end of the field, but it just didn't materialize. He kind of just stayed around there. George Russell actually pushed him out of the points when he overtook him, but then obviously Gasly going slow, Norris managed to nick a point at the end. So an all right performance, especially after given it was such a poor Saturday. But yeah, props to Carlos Sainz again for another classic Sainz performance. If that Ferrari's okay next year, hopefully we'll see Sainz on the podium a few more times. But I don't know. It really depends how.
I'd
Ferrari
like
that
to
redesign.
see Sainz keeping Leclerc honest. Give Leclerc a teammate that will be capable of doing the same things, because that's what Vettel should be. Can be asked to do the same things that he's doing with the car.
Yeah.
I think that's where the issue lies. I am convinced Vettel has just been phoning it in.
Yes, but I think that I don't think you're going to see Sainz just sort of like politely sitting behind Leclerc, even if the team tells him to.
No, I think we're going to have all-out battles.
And Sainz has, the last couple of times he's changed teams, he has hit the ground running.
Yeah. I mean, he was good when he went to Renault for that half season.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there wasn't a fantastic benchmark to show him against because he'd taken over Palmer's car, which all of a sudden seemed to start working and stop being on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Jolyon took his fire with him.
Maybe.
It's worth noting, and a bit of a worry for Sainz, that Ferrari historically haven't got a great history of managing drivers when they've got two competitive drivers. And Leclerc very much seems like the Ferrari chosen one. So I don't know what that's going to do to his career.
Well, Ferrari say they've got a new attitude every year.
Yeah,
they never have. I mean,
their new attitude was not fucking over Leclerc to help Vettel, and fucking Vettel over to help Leclerc. That was the new attitude. That's not a new attitude. That's just swapping the name tags over.
I mean, it all depends on who they bring in about 2 weeks before the first test to replace Binotto, because I'm convinced he's dead man walking.
I don't know. I think Binotto's been very clever. When things have gone wrong, he's just walked away, and everybody just seems to forget about him. And then he'll occasionally turn back up again, and people will go, "Oh no, he is still the team boss."
I
Not
think
sure
there's
that's
an argument
great
to be made
leadership.
that. Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made that Binotto needs to get back to the factory and do what not what he's good at. I'm not saying he's not managing the team badly, but I'm saying that he's probably more valuable to Ferrari in that capacity than he is sat on the pit wall.
But the thing is, though, for the Ferrari team principal's job is a poison chalice, isn't it? Once you've got it, you don't get demoted; you get sacrificed.
Yeah, I think he's different though. I think he can just drift back into the factory without. Maybe this is what they're building up to do with him having disappearing, coming and going. So it's not like a full on. Let's get him up on the post and let the crows peck his eyes out.
Well, no, they already ceremonially do that when they give him the team principal's office.
Maybe it's DeRosa, not DeRosa. What's his name?
Domenicali?
No, the driver.
Della Rosa?
Yes, maybe it's his turn. No, he's not with Ferrari, is he?
Marc Genet.
Marc Genet, that's what I'm thinking of.
Well,
I knew it was another terrible Formula One driver. But yeah, maybe it's his turn to be sacrificed.
Well, he's done everything else there for the team, hasn't he? What was I saying about Binotto was only there this weekend so he could enter the bubble and actually go to Abu Dhabi because he wasn't planning on being in either Bahrain race.
Ah.
And I mean, for a Ferrari team principal not to be there when allegedly they've still got something to fight for.
That's the thing, they're really not that... I think they're sort of the bottom of the little group that they're in the constructors, but they're really not that far off. Sort of picking up another couple of places, so...
Yeah, I mean, 6th could be on the cut. Jesus. 90s reference for Ferrari again?
Where's Gerhard Berger when you need him?
Pissed.
It's fair.
Right, Red Bull. Albon in 6th. Verstappen caught up. Kind of collateral damage.
Yeah, not really Verstappen's fault, really. He just was trying to get out the way and there was nowhere to go.
And then couldn't well, he was trying to drive round the Perez Leclerc cluster and couldn't turn because he was in tarmac coloured gravel.
Yeah. Also, kicking a concrete wall straight after getting out the car probably wasn't a sensible move.
Have they gone again?
No,
still here.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, he was pissed off.
Oh yeah.
That was the return of Angry Max. But just as far as the very strangely coloured gravel goes, I've never seen a circuit with gravel that's the same colour as the track, just off the track.
Yeah, I didn't. It was like
it feels like
weird,
entrapment.
Yeah, you want to run wide? Looks perfectly normal.
Yeah, I'll just turn around on this. Wait, this isn't concrete.
And Albon, I don't know. He was a little bit on the anonymous side again.
Yeah, Albon, good race. Got up from 12th to 6th. Spent a bit too long getting past the AlphaTauris, but the qualifying was the issue. If he'd qualified better, he wouldn't have had to spend all race fannying around behind the AlphaTauris.
Although the really bizarre Albon radio message of the week, this is following hot on the heels of "they're racing us too hard," was "we're fast, but we're not raceable."
No, that kind of makes sense. I know it's. I do know what he means by that. He's probably quick enough to keep up with him and even be ahead of the car in front, but for whatever reason the car's set up, he can't overtake. It's very difficult for him to get the car into a position to overtake.
They were
whether that's based on aero.
Race.
Or they were raceabling him too hard.
I think he had a terrible race, and he's probably lost his seat to Perez.
I don't think he's lost his seat. I think he's fine. I think he's kept it.
Perez won the race, and he was last at one point. That's the craziness we had in this race. Nothing happened to Albon, and he has the second best car. If nothing happens to him, and all that craziness goes on around him, he should have won the race in a Red Bull.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you need from even from a number two driver, even from like your most number two-y of number two drivers in a team like Red Bull. When like Max Verstappen would have been in that hunt for the win, and to be perfectly honest, obviously seeing what happened to the Mercedes, if the same things had happened, Max Verstappen would have won that race.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and you can't be that far away from your teammate that all that calamity happens and you're sixth.
Yeah.
Not when you got the second best car on the grid. Maybe if he hadn't been doing this all year, and don't get me wrong, I don't want Albon to get the sack. He seems like a nice bloke. He was good. He was good last year, but I don't think he's done enough to save his career.
I think the decision was made before this weekend, and because last weekend all the talk was about it didn't matter how good Perez was going to be for the rest of the season. Okay, fine, fair enough. He's gone and won a race, but
but Christian Horner said that Albon has 2 races left to prove he deserves to be in the car.
Yeah, that was about 5 races ago.
No, this was before this race weekend.
I mean, he also said at one point during the last week, it's Red Bull or nothing for him, so the demotion isn't on the cards.
Well, we know Tsunoda's
we know it's
going
to be Tsunoda.
Yeah, and I think
Carlin have already named Tsunoda's replacement.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was announced, wasn't it, before this race that any decision on Albon will be done after the season's finished now.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think there's a decision being made, and I think he this was one of his poorer weekends in my eyes.
I think he had an all right race.
I think the race.
Had a better
I think
race.
the race was fine. I think the qualifying was the problem. I think.
Because the race was fine.
Yeah, but you can look at people
problem.
like Renault and McLaren. They could also have been further up.
He's in a Red Bull.
Yeah, but you've got the strategy as well. I don't think he particularly benefited from any of the safety cars or the virtual safety car.
Maybe. I
But
just
yeah,
I,
if
I
he'd
just
qualif-
don't see I don't see how he goes on in that
Yeah.
team.
But no, I think if he sorts his qualifying out, he should have been in and around signs at least.
I wouldn't put it past Red Bull to sign him for next season. And by Canada, we see Perez in the car then.
I don't know. It's too many. I see what you mean.
Red Bull have definitely, they've got previous for. It's not going to be the full switcheroo because Gasly's never going to be driving a Red Bull again.
Depends what Tsunoda does.
I don't know. I don't think they dare stick Tsunoda in the car stick Tsunoda in the big car mid-season because, well, it didn't work the last time they tried it. They got lucky. They got lucky with Verstappen. As it turned out, he was that good, and he was worthy of the seat.
Well, no, but Albon last year they put him in as a rookie, and that went well. Last year,
but now it's starting to backfire on him. Verstappen's been consistently Verstappen since he moved up.
Yeah, but they have got a good batch of next lot of meat grinder lot almost ready. So if they could clear out AlphaTauri next year and have people ready.
Yeah, I mean, Vips has got his super license now, so they don't need to worry about that.
Jayan Deruvala started very slowly in F2, but has had a good run towards the second half of the year.
And Liam Lawson's not all that far off. Good year in F2, and he'll be ready
doing
for
F2
it.
next year.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Good.
I think he's forgetting something though. Is that they're not in the position to win a world championship at the minute. They're almost in the position to win a world championship, but not quite. But the thing is, they're not going to win a world championship until they have a driver that is up there to help Verstappen to be keep saying, to be in the pit window of the Mercedes. So in that case, they can't just keep meat grinding people because they might meat grinder people to the point where Verstappen gets upset and leaves. So they need another competitive guy in that car to keep Verstappen happy, obviously, oddly enough.
Yeah, especially as they're going to, looks like they're going to be taking on the IP of the Honda engine and be developing it themselves. They need to be very careful not to upset Max Verstappen over the next couple of years. So they're going to need to really support him in the car. That to me says either, well, not either, but somebody with a little bit more experience.
My God, 2023 Mercedes lineup: George Russell and Max Verstappen.
Well, I think that was what I was saying before we went on. That I read an article from a German sports newspaper that said, or I think it was Italian, but the rumours come out of Germany that Red Bull are trying to offer Mercedes money for George Russell. This is one of the reasons why I think he's going to get in the car next year, because they can't risk it. But that's what I was going to say about Red Bull needing a better number 2 driver, is because soon I think Mercedes is going to have a much stronger team than they have now when they drop Bottas. And if Mercedes are all of a sudden stronger, then Red Bull are going to need to be stronger as well.
Otherwise, it's going to be more visible and noticeable domination.
Yeah, well, that's it. If all of a sudden you've got, let's just fucking put it out there and say that with a full, ready for a full season, Russell can match Hamilton. So let's just say they've got 2 drivers that are pretty equal with each other. Verstappen won't get a sniff in all of a sudden, because Verstappen's best move has been all year is been getting in between the Mercedes, and that's more because of Bottas than it is Verstappen.
Usually, yeah. Mainly because Bottas has been having a lot of trouble with starts, and sometimes Verstappen absolutely nails it.
And race pace. It's not like Bottas has got blistering pace. Sometimes, we see him quite a lot being dropped by Verstappen as Verstappen goes off to try and hunt Hamilton down.
It'd be interesting to look at the sort of relative gaps.
Mm-hmm.
Probably need a statistician to do that. Should we get one on next? Get one on next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's get somebody who knows stats.
Right. If anybody knows anyone that does stats and wants to come on the show next week, then the invitations. Oh, sorry, we've got one booked. Right, that's fine. All done. Right, Renault. Ocon with his debut podium in second. I don't think he did anything wrong.
No, some good on-track stuff as well. Got past Stroll. Didn't collide with Perez. Always a bonus.
Almost like Albon, but Albon ends up 6 in the Red Bull.
Danny Rick in fifth. He said he's basically admitted that wasn't his best performance and he should have done more.
Yeah, he got stuck behind Sainz early on, didn't he, and was struggling to follow.
Kvyat and Sainz undercut him in the first pit stop.
But before the
he
first
stayed
pit
out
stop,
way too late.
Yeah, I think before the first pit stop, he was at one point all over the back of Sainz and then started dropping back. And then second pit stop was the one where him and Sainz came in as the VSC was ending, and I think that's where Ocon timed it right and disappeared off into the sunset.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, an absolutely great result for Renault.
Yeah.
And I mean, with their new young driver coming in next year, a lot of buzz about this kid.
Apparently, he's won some world championships in some sport called Phi or F1 or something like that. I'm not quite sure.
He did.
But yeah.
He had a bit of a career in Wes as well. Apparently, he won the World Prius Championship or something.
Prius Championship.
I mean, this young driver, he is the buzz of Wednesday afternoons in B&Q.
Yeah, totally.
He'll get there. Or Thursday mornings outside the post office. Right, that leaves Racing Point. Lance Stroll getting his second podium of the season, and a debut win for Checo.
Yay.
I've been wanting to see him take a win for years.
Yeah, it's he came close. I think it was 2012 when he was following Alonso in Malaysia, and his engineer came on and went, "Don't fuck up," and then he went and made a mistake.
Then he fucked up.
Well, the last thing you say to somebody who you want to do really well is "Don't fuck up." Like
it's like what Hulkenberg's engineer said to him every time he got into third.
Basically, yeah. So that to me was Sauber's fault, and then there was Monza that year as well when Hamilton openly admitted that had the race gone on for 5 more laps, Perez would have caught and passed him because he just looked after his tyres so well.
Yeah.
So there was 2 second places early on in his career. He had that year at McLaren, which didn't work out for him. And then Force India picked him up and said, "Yeah, go on, we think you're worth another shot." And he stayed with that team since 2014. He's finally won his first race. He saved that team, don't forget. That team and all the people that work for them are only in their jobs because Sergio Perez bailed them out.
Yeah. And got a tweet from Ruben Hernandez earlier. He sent this one to us. So let me get this straight. The 2 guys who Racing Point screwed over to give the rich kid an F1 ride finished ahead of the rich kid.
That is a correct assessment.
Yeah. Ocon and Perez, both finished ahead of Stroll.
You can't really argue with that, can you? But I mean, Perez, he did everything that he needed to do and a load more. He got that car in the right place. Your Twitter timeline, Chris, from yesterday afternoon is the stuff of legend. I want to see that in book form or framed.
I may put that together in a frame at some point. But
for anyone that's not on Twitter, I want you to go through your tweets. I'll start off with the one I put up.
All right, okay, hang on, wait there.
Right,
go on, wait there. Let me jump on. Wait there. Where am I? I'm there somewhere.
So,
Oh no, it's taking forever. Go on.
well,
you
there's
start.
a lot of ways. Well, I started before the race with the usual on 3 legs, 4 wheels. Anyone got any bold predictions for this afternoon?
And then I responded by saying Sergio Perez to win, because I knew that the Racing Point would be quick. I think I predicted Stroll for a podium actually on the podcast, on the official predicting thing, which we didn't do last week. But I think I went.
No, we
Bottas.
did. We had to get rid of them once Hamilton wasn't on, and I would like to very much thank Mike McPherson for his predictions last week.
Oh, fantastic!
Mike McPherson, who is now our prediction, betting, and whiskey expert on the pod.
Absolutely, yeah. So I knew that the Racing Points were going to be quick. Perez had a pretty good qualifying, and I thought, yeah, everybody's talking about Leclerc doing well. Nobody's really talking about Checo in 5th. I think Racing Point have a really quick car, and what if? I thought, go on then. I'll just say that Perez to win. That was my bold prediction. Was Sergio Perez to win. So that was at 5:05 p.m. So 5 minutes before lights out, I put that up. And then Mike McPherson, who we've just noted, responded saying, I called him top 3 if memory serves me right. Takes a sip of Islay malt. Yep, that's what I said. And my response was, this tweet has aged poorly and it's Perez's fault. That was after the turn 4 incident where Perez was last on lap 1. And then somebody else responded, hang on a second, let's just have a look. Ricky Worrell responded. That tweet may
winner of last night's iRacing Indy Grand Prix, by the way.
Oh, fantastic! Congratulations, Ricky. Yeah, he responded with that tweet may have aged beautifully, and I responded with, "Let's see." I knew they'd have pace because I just did not know what was going to happen. And then I decided to victoriously retweet my earlier tweet to Paul saying Sergio Perez to win. Just quoted, "Well, well, well."
A self retweet is always a big moment.
It is, yeah. I didn't put any money on it because I very rarely bet on Formula One, and when I do, it's only a couple of quid. But yeah, it's it was. I knew that the Racing Point would have pace, but even that surprised me. And I was still surprised that I got maximum points for getting Stroll in the right place on the podium in the predictions.
I will get round to finally updating the predictions league for the last couple of races because I've not done that. I've been really lax with the website. Right.
We've heaped. I just want to say we've heaped so much praise on George Russell for his performance. Can we just do the same for Sergio Perez quickly, because he's the first man in history to be last at the end of the first lap and win the race.
Ooh, breaking! I've got something breaking.
Breaking news or breaking something?
Your window, by the sounds of things, from that rain earlier.
No, because obviously, as we've learned from George Russell, when his Twitter bio went from George Russell, Formula One driver for Williams Racing, and then he cut the Williams thing off, and then all of a sudden he was confirmed for Mercedes for this weekend. Valtteri Bottas has changed his Twitter bio thing. So Valtteri Bottas's bio was Valtteri Bottas driver, VB77, cup of coffee, bowl of porridge, never give up, Mercedes AMG and at Mercedes AMG and at F1. His bio now reads Valtteri Bottas driver, VB77, ValtteriBottas.com.
Was it on Twitter?
Yeah, this is on Twitter. I've just spotted this as well. Yeah,
he's still showing up as driver for Mercedes AMG F1 for me.
Let's have a look.
My Twitter app must be slow.
Unless this is fake. Let me find Valtteri Bottas.
Is this blue tick Bottas with 728,000 followers?
Hang on a second, let me look. Because I'm looking at somebody's retweet. who's another.
I don't think that. I don't think that's real. I have seen that, Lee, but I don't think that's real. So.
Twitter is a fucking scandalous place, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no changes on the one that I'm looking at on the web app on the Blue Tick Twitter.
That's a shame.
Because that guy's probably Valtteri Bottas, but his L is like a capital I or something.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
but
see the one you're looking at.
no, it was another motorsports journalist thing that had retweeted it. You see, oh well, as you were.
Always
no
check the
exciting
receipts
news.
on Twitter.
So your breaking is officially broken. So where were we? Yes, Checo Perez. Yes, we have waxed lyrical about George Russell. It's about time we did it about Sergio, because that was... You've got to say it was his all-time best performance, because it was his first win.
Oh no, sorry, it's not. That's why it's not. It is his blue tick mark, check mark one, but it's not Twitter. Sorry, it's Instagram.
Oh.
He's took Mercedes off his Instagram.
Let's have a look at that then.
Oh, this
makes a riveting listen. Why am I googling Mercedes, you fucking prick?
Why am I in? Why am I in WhatsApp?
You carry on.
This is like a bloody Kraftwerk gig. Everyone's just here.
I've got it on my. Let me finish and I'll fix it. I've got it on my laptop at the minute, so I'll tweet. I'll send you in a message so you can see it on the group chat.
Yeah,
I've got it.
I've got it. I can see it on the.
Very bland profile picture as well.
Yeah.
Very bland human being.
Well, but unbranded is possibly what I was going for there.
Well, it's not what you said.
What I said was possibly more honest.
We'll
Do
see.
you know what though?
We'll see how this
Valtteri
develops.
Bottas is followed by Haas F1 team.
So
Who are Haas going to fire to get him in?
Reserve driver for next season. So who are they going to fire? Pietro Fittipaldi.
Poor Fittipaldi.
So anyway, Sergio Perez. First career win. He's been in Formula One for how many years?
8, 9, 10?
10 seasons. I think this is his 10th season. 11, I think, was his first year. 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, so this is his 10th season.
And somehow he doesn't have a drive at the end of the year.
Ridiculous.
Correct. All details correct at time of going to press. I mean, he's always had the ability. He's been during the Turbo era. He's done the most surprise podiums outside the big three teams.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, when's he going to be able to take that step up? And all right, it took. You would definitely have to say shenanigans, but you can't win a race without being at the front. You take whatever you can get from any racing situation.
Not in one of those cars either. It's you can't say what I was saying about Albon not capitalising with the car he's got and take it away from Perez that did capitalise with it with a worse car.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no way really that the Racing Point should be in a position to compete with a Red Bull.
No, and he was last as well. He worked his way through. He genuinely did it through good pace and good racecraft,
and that
wasn't back up into that position.
Yeah, it wasn't just on pit stop strategy. That was actually racing. He's always been a racer. He's always been good at overtakes,
mm-hmm.
and it helps that he is one of the best on the grid at managing his tyres.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why when he was in a position for a podium earlier on in the season, I want to say Imola, was it, where they did the switch on him? Where they pitted him to give Stroll a better position.
I can't remember, but it was one of those.
Yeah, it's like, why are they doing that? His tyres will be fine.
Yeah.
From my armchair. Well, sofa. We don't actually have an armchair. But this is the culmination of everything his career has been leading up to. I want to see him in a better car. I'd love to see him in the Red Bull. I just don't think it's going to happen in Australia next year. I wouldn't rule it out for the rest of the season. And he says he's already got offers for 2022.
Let's see what happens.
You know, let's see him in a car in 2021, and I'd like to not see him replace George Russell in a Williams, because that would be a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all fine and good Williams being able to say, you know, we've still got the clout to hire a race-winning driver. It's like, yeah, but you were the only seat available on the grid. You know,
no. Checo needs to drive.
You know, that would be false trumpeting how good you are on a par with Damon Hill driving for Arrows.
Yeah, Checo needs to drive. You know, if COVID is still around next year, but you know, not as prevalent. Hopefully, with all the vaccine stuff that's coming, and you know, someone like, I don't know, Daniel Ricciardo, for example, tests positive for COVID on entry into somewhere. Checo Perez is who McLaren should probably look at for. Yeah, go on. Stick Perez in that car for, you know, a weekend. McLaren is the kind of team that Checo Perez should be trying to get himself into. Not Williams, no disrespect to them, but not Williams, not Haas.
I think he'd retire first.
Yeah, he needs a car at the top end, you know, towards the sharper end.
Yeah, he needs a car that he can compete for points, podiums, and wins with, because because he is a driver capable of getting a car...
Points, podiums, and wins.
Well, he's a driver that's capable of getting a car 2 or 3 places higher than where it should be. Mm-hmm. So he can get a mid-grid car higher. You know, he can get a mid-grid car on the podium. He can get a top end of the mid-grid car top step.
Mm-hmm.
And he's proved that this weekend. Praise enough there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, rock stars and wankers. Rock stars, the obvious. Russell, Perez. Mm-hmm. I'm throwing Ocon in there.
Yeah, why not?
Could have rubbed it.
Any other rock star nominations?
No, I don't think so. He could have really rubbed it in their faces as well, couldn't he, Ocon? Could have been like, look at me, I'm on the podium, guess who isn't? But he chose not to be a dick. So yeah, for that reason alone, I'll put Esteban Ocon in there, as well as Checo and George Russell. Wanker's Mercedes pit crew.
Yes.
Not necessarily their fault, but they didn't even have to pit both cars. And they probably still would have been okay.
As it turned out, though, with the way that Bottas's tyres fell off, yes, they did.
I don't know. Maybe. It's hard to tell. We'll never know. But, I feel like they didn't have to do it. They did it because they thought they had a free pit stop. And then it turns out they had to put the same tyres back on Bottas's car and stop George another 2 times anyway.
The potential sort of wanker as well for the marshals that were clearing up the broken Aitken front wing, because they clearly missed a bit.
Well, they didn't get a chance. I think they got a chance to retrieve it. I don't think they got a chance to actually sweep anything away.
Yeah.
Because because it's such a short track, there was no gap in the traffic for them to go and do it.
I think they held the virtual safety car for too long without bringing out the proper safety car to bunch them up.
Maybe, but then the race would have panned out very differently yet again. So who knows?
God knows.
Don't get me wrong. I was gutted for what happened with George Russell, but I was really happy for Checo. So, rock stars and wankers is a difficult one.
Rockstar as well, possibly for the Bahrain outer circuit or outer loop or whatever the feck it calls itself.
Does that mean we're actually saying Herman Tilke gets a rock star? For the first time that isn't Circuit of the Americas.
Possible. I think it's there by accident, isn't it? It's not the Tilke bit as such. It's just an extra kind of bit that he technically designed it, but
he was just testing his pen out on the top of the sheet.
It's not what he designed for F1 as such.
Yeah, true. Had another wanker nomination for the Ferrari pit crew. They're not even trying to hide the lack of fucks given about Vettel's stops.
Yeah, there was a couple of sloppy ones.
Yeah. That was casual. That was so casual that pit stop was wearing a Fred Perry polo shirt.
That'd be Vettel next year at Aston Martin.
The Giovinazzi Participation Award.
Yeah.
Well,
Goes to
who gets it alongside Joe Benazzi?
Latifi.
Fittipaldi.
Fittipaldi was okay.
He didn't do anything as such, which is fine for you're making your first outing.
The Haas team were quite pleased with him. They thought he did really well.
I mean, he's not raced a lot at all the last couple of years because he had a bad crash at Belgium in WEC, broke both his legs. Has done a little bit of IndyCar, a little bit of DTM.
Oh, didn't he have to get carried to the grid on his IndyCar comeback?
Oh, that rings a vague bell. I think he might have had some assistance
Because he had his drive.
He had crutches.
He had his pre-race driver photo taken on crutches, standing next to the car.
Yeah, but I think
trying not to lean on it.
DTM is the only sort of full season he's done since then, so there'll be a little bit of ring rust.
And K-Mag was about as beige as one of Nico Rosberg's suits.
Yeah, he was very definitely just there, wasn't he, K-Mag?
Just there. I think that's it. Right. Normally we'd throw some predictions in for Abu Dhabi at the weekend. However, we don't know the full lineup for Mercedes yet. So I have one set of predictions from our guest predictor this week, which is Matt Steele, he's already done some predictions this season, but he did a 12-hour go-kart endurance race this weekend just gone, with a 3 legs 4 wheels logo on his kart and on his race suit.
That's really cool. Thanks, Matt.
And he's been our general iRacing coach as well. So, we're declaring, now that Dave Daddario's retired, Matt is our new pet racing driver. So
real racing driver Matt Steele.
Yep, real racing driver and friend of the podcast. And as he's friends with Jensen Button...
And guest.
And previous guest. And, of course, as he's friends with Jensen Button, that makes Jensen friend of the podcast.
We'll get Jensen on one day.
One of these days we will. If you're listening, Jensen, or Matt. So we're going to put the predictions up on the website. The predictions are open on the website now for anyone that wants to take part in the last race of the season on the Prediction League. You can enter and change predictions right up to 5 minutes before Q1 starts at the weekend.
That's a good facility, isn't it? Really, given how
and out of the number of people that made predictions last week, only one person didn't get a chance to change theirs. So Lewis Hamilton only appeared in there once, and the winner only got 6 points out of a possible 24 this week. That's how unpredictable it was. As we're running late again, shall we skip the total shunt tonight because we're pushing 2 hours again?
Can do, yeah.
I think that's probably for the best. What we'll have to do, we'll do a show. How about we do a show over Christmas maybe, and it's just a special total shunt, and we'll all fire them at each other.
Ooh, that could be fun.
Yeah, quiz night. The YouTube quiz went down really well. Let's have a total shunt special sometime over Christmas. That one's just come.
Sounds good.
That one's just come to me now. We should have talked it through earlier, but yeah, we've just said
we'll
it's gone
figure
out.
out the exact format amongst ourselves.
So, the best way to send total shunts in would be for Lee.
If you send me a PM on Twitter or Instagram at a total shunt, eventually I will read them.
And if you want to send the ones in for me to do on the Christmas special, email them to 3legs4wheels@gmail.com. For ones for Sean...
at Sean Cowper on Twitter. I have no idea if my DMs are open, but drop me an @ or something and I'll figure something out.
And for Chris?
At Flood21.
And
I'm open like a cheap horse, so definitely send them to me.
Mine are open as well at Pablo100. Don't send any to @3legs4wheels because we've all got access to that, but you can still use that for Twitter.
Don't send the same one to all 4 of us.
Because that could get very confusing. But you can get us on...
Choose which team you're on.
But you can get in touch with us at
Team Paul, are you Team Sean or Team Chris?
And you know what else I reckon we should do for this quiz special? Without anyone sending him total shunts in advance, get Dan on.
Yeah, do
or
it.
just randomly send Dan total shunts and he'll have no idea why.
I don't know what.
Also a fun game.
I don't know what would confuse him more.
Just send messages to Dan. Just send messages.
I was born.
if you do that, send us a tweet with hashtag Dan was born. Or no, actually, better hashtag Total Dan. Right, we will be back next week. We'll be looking back at whatever happens in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We will be, all being well, joined by virtual statman Sean Kelly. If you want more of us, then we have the Patreon show where all your donations and pledges go to keeping us going, basically. If you go to patreon.com/3legs4wheels, you can donate as little as £1, $1, or €1 a month, and everything goes to everything goes to the show, basically, doesn't it?
Yeah, keeping us in cables, microphones, etc.
And the occasional packet of biscuits.
The important stuff.
Yeah, and making sure that we can actually host this somewhere so that you guys can listen to it.
That is very true. And from a personal note, I would like to thank all our listeners on Spotify. Somehow, and I don't know how, we were the 225th most popular sports podcast of the year in the US in 2020. So
we love America.
Thank you everyone on Spotify that listens, especially Spotify listeners in the USA. Let's get to 215 next year, 10 place rise.
Top 200.
Top 200?
Top 200.
That's our aim.
And
right.
Maybe one day we'll come to America and do a show there.
We would love to do that. In that case, go on to Patreon and pledge now. We'll see you next week.
We will.
Bye-bye.
Bye.